There's a difference between winning and power. These people here want power. They don't always care about winning because you don't have to get the W in order to coalesce power. One thing that I will also note for the audience, we know that the 2024 Joe Biden is different than the 2020 Joe Biden. We all know that. However, the 2024 Joe Biden is the same as the 2023 Joe Biden. If any of these people actually were concerned and cared, then they would have talked about this a year ago, last summer, before we even started going into the primary cycle for the Democratic nomination. There are things that could have been done last summer if they were interested at all in preserving Biden's legacy, if they were genuinely and authentically concerned with whether or not he could serve, they would have hashed this out, had this conversation, done all these things a year ago behind closed doors.
They were too busy going after Trump, trying to take Trump out. The Democrats were too busy doing a whole lot of other stuff. And see, their own housekeeping got left behind and got undone. Now the dishes are in the sink, the toilet needs to be scrubbed out, and now they're at the 12th hour going, oh no, company's coming over and the house is dirty. Y'all need to clean your house up. But Trump will do that for you. Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Today is DEI gone wrong. You guys are not going to want to miss this. You're going to want to stick around. We're talking about how the Dems are trying to figure out not only how to get rid of Jim Crow Joe, but Kamala Harris too. That's right. Before we get further into it, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let's get back into it.
Top Democrats have tried to get President Biden to drop VP Harris from the ticket. They literally, some met with Biden, and he told them, hell no. He wasn't going to do it. So, what you need to understand, so this effort to get Biden to drop is not just about Biden. It's also about Harris. Okay, today, Adam Schiff, congressman from California, came out and said that it's time for Biden to drop out of the race. He, of course, is running for the United States Senate. You now got about 21 Democrat lawmakers who said that polling numbers show that they're not going to do well if Biden is at the top of the ticket. Here are all those particular names. Now, they're all basing this off of the performance in the debate on June 27th. But here's what's interesting. Democrats have spent more time in the last 20 days tearing Biden down than they have Trump. In fact, Republicans have been relatively quiet because the Democrats are doing all of their work. So let's go back to this particular poll that was taken. Go to my iPad. So this was released to Politico today. And so it's from this group called Blue Labs. Now, I want y'all to understand what's going on here. In this particular poll they did, or assessment, you see here where they said they interviewed 15,000 voters across 7 battleground states between July 5th and July 12th. Okay? Says their goal. We're looking for voters whose behaviors change depending on who the Democratic candidate is. Okay? Now, these are their top line findings. Alternative Democratic candidates run ahead of President Biden by an average of 3 points across the battleground states. Nearly every Democrat performs better than the president. But here's the critical line. This includes Vice President Harris, who runs better than the president, but behind the average alternative. Let's go further. So when you look in here, they lay out that an average of almost 3% of Trump voters in a Trump-Biden matchup switch to voting Democrat if there's an alternative candidate leading the ticket. Okay, let's keep going. young voters, independents, and those who haven't voted since at least 2020 are most likely to increase support for the Democrat with an alternative candidate. So here they go. These are their 4 candidates in alphabetical order. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan.
And I just want to stop and say here that I don't think any of these people have even a chance of beating Donald Trump. And this is the thing about the Democrats. They do the DEI stuff, right? You got to get a black woman. Black women pushed Joe Biden to get a black woman on the Supreme Court and as VP. So he did that. He did what they wanted him to do. And now these same people do not want Kamala Harris. That's what it's looking like to me. It looks like, they don't want Joe and they don't want Kamala, but they're stuck. You know why they're stuck? Because all of that money went to the Biden-Harris campaign, more than $300 million. So if they don't have Biden or Harris, they got to start all over with the money. Yes, getting money together. Then what happens to the $300 million? I don't know. I really don't know. But I do know that the Democrats put themselves in this situation. Joe Biden, they knew that man, they pretended like, the debate, now we got to find some. We didn't know. That's fake shock. They knew exactly what was going on because everybody else did. I knew. Everybody around me knew. Everybody did. Content creators were talking about it and they want to act like they didn't know. So now they get, she couldn't vote the 25th Amendment from what I understand. Then next thing, they don't want her either because she performs not as well as they want her to perform. So then how do they get rid of both of them? So they're stuck and I'm fine with it because they put themselves in this situation.
Now check this out. By nearly 2-to-1 margin, Democratic voters say the party should choose the best nominee no matter who if Biden doesn't run. I need y'all to understand why they're framing it this way. Because they don't want it to be Kamala Harris. Now watch this. Who should delegates nominate if Biden does not run? The best nominee, no matter who. According to Democrats, 56%. 33% say VP Harris. Look at the black number. 43% say best nominee, no matter who. 40% say Kamala Harris. And so then you see independents, youth, sporadic, Rust Belt. Again, I need y'all to understand what's going on here. What you have going on here is an effort by prominent Democrats to freeze out Kamala Harris because they've never wanted Kamala Harris on the ticket. Now, here's what I think is going on. The 2028 battle is happening right now. There are Democrats who want other candidates to run for president. They fear, this is what they fear. They fear Biden winning and then in a year or two resigning and thus handing the presidency to Kamala Harris. If that's the case, she then runs as the incumbent in 2028, freezing out the other candidates. It's going to be hard for the Democratic Party to have candidates run against an incumbent president, the first female president. So these Democratic operatives, they don't want to wait to 2032. They need Kamala Harris out of the way so they can run their folks. Now, you might say, well, I'm not sure. Okay? So answer this. If Biden drops out, the only person who can access the more than $300 million they've raised is Kamala Harris, because the money was given to the Biden-Harris campaign. There are 1,000 staffers on the campaign and 100 field offices around the country. Because of campaign finance laws, you cannot transfer that infrastructure from one campaign to the next. The DNC doesn't control that infrastructure. The campaign does. So if the Democrats pick anybody but Vice President Kamala Harris, they have to completely build a national campaign from scratch. Fundraising from scratch, infrastructure from scratch. You got to do it on the fly while you're also trying to build a name ID nationally of these other candidates.
Well, you know, Democrats, demon rats, that's what you get for picking somebody unqualified. So, you know, there were other candidates other than Jim Crow Joe that they could have put up, but everybody rallied around Jim Crow Joe. Now, and I guess, you know, he's a puppet and he's going to do whatever they want him to do. Then you get someone else who's equally not prepared. She's not ready for the world stage, and she cackles all the time, and she's even less popular than Jim Crow Joe. So they're stuck. You just heard Roland Martin confirm what I already said a moment ago, that more than $300 million, it has to go to either Biden or Kamala Harris. If it's not going to be either of those two, then you got to start from scratch with the name recognition. You got to get this person nationally known, and you know they're going to wrap up the demonic attacks against Trump. You know that because they realize their backs are up against the wall. They got to start from scratch, everything from scratch. And this puts Trump, the Republicans are more solid and more unified, as you can clearly see. The demon rats are running around like crazy trying to figure out what to do. Well, you guys keep doing that DEI stuff. I'm just fine that you keep doing it on your side. Keep doing it. And I want to share this article with you all. If you're looking at my screen right here, and I apologize for all these ads, but it says, can she win? Why Kamala Harris can't shake doubts about her political future. And as you can see here, major reasons Democrats are concerned about tapping Vice President. And this is coming from Politico.com. Politico.com, you know, the fake fact-checking organization that's Democrat ran. But anyway, it says, major reasons Democrats are concerned about tapping Vice President Kamala Harris should President Joe Biden step aside stem from polling and her failed 2020 presidential bid. So they're concerned, okay? And this is an article from just yesterday. President Joe Biden could soon be out, but that doesn't guarantee Vice President Kamala Harris is in. If Biden seeks to overwhelming political pressure and steps aside as a Democrat presidential nominee, it might seem natural that Harris, as Biden's political heir since 2020, would inherit the party's mantle and his resources. Remember all that campaign money, with Democrats unifying behind her in the name of defeating former President Donald Trump. That could still be the case for Harris. Yet for months, even those now nudging Biden out the door haven't been confident that Harris would be a winning presidential candidate, reviving some of the same concerns that sank her White House run and dogged an uneven vice presidency. Clips and memes of her odd and circuitous sound bites, have proliferated on social media. You know, we are burdened by what has been. We shall be unburdened by what has been. All those weird sound bites. She doesn't answer questions and she cackles all the time. She has a bad history, too, of sleeping her way up to the top. Yeah. And, you know, I always joke and say that's how you get a leg up, or two legs in her case. But I digress. Remember Willie Brown? But I'm just going to keep moving on. So clips and memes, we talked about that. While some Democrats cheer her push on abortion rights, Republicans have made clear they intend to go directly at Harris's White House work on the southern border. Even as calls for Biden's exit have crescendoed, prominent Democratic officials and donors have continued to cast doubt on the wisdom of swapping in Harris. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, who has emerged as a steadfast voice for Biden, staying put, reminded her followers on Instagram Live late Thursday night that the party is not fully in Harris's camp. So you see that the Democrat Party, they are absolutely so divided right now. You've got some, there's got to be some along with AOC that want Biden to stay put. I have no idea why, because every poll is saying that he does not match up well to Donald Trump at all. It'll be an easy defeat according to everything that they're looking at. And that disastrous debate performance by Jim Crow Joe did not help the matter. So now they're questioning Harris and her abilities as well. She did not do a good job. Let's be clear. She's a DEI hire, as I said before. She's DEI. And when you DEI, sometimes it turns into DIE. That's what it turns into. And it says Democrats are trying to solve a basic equation. Who gives them the best odds of keeping Trump out of the White House and maximizing Democratic success in the House and Senate, where candidates are currently being dragged down by Biden? Another thing that I want to point out as well is that Democrats are not just concerned about the presidency. They're concerned about Congress, the Senate, and the House. Because if Biden or Harris could cause those other elections to be lost by the demon rats. So they got a big problem on their hands. They've got a big problem. And what happens to that money that went to the Biden-Harris campaign? I read that it goes back to the donors. It goes back to the donors. So we don't know. It's hard to predict the future. And they're looking at other candidates, as you've seen, and they are in the mess that they are in because they did not do things right the first time. Anytime you go this whole route of trying to do identity politics, you get what you get. The Republicans don't do that. They just get the best person for the job. J.D. Vance is VP because he has connections with some of those swing states, right? And I wanted Byron Donalds for obvious reasons. I wanted more African Americans to be more inclined, to come over. But you got to do what you got to do. And this is what's down. And they're really upset. And I'm just wanting to know what you all think. If this doesn't work, they're stuck with Biden or Harris, is what it's looking like. There's very little chance of getting her out. How do you get both of them out? How does that even happen?
I'm trying to tell everybody out here what's going on. The play is they need to take Biden out to take Harris out. Oh, and by the way, Vice President Kamala Harris might be from California. Nancy Pelosi does not support Kamala Harris. If you thought Nancy Pelosi shanked Congresswoman Barbara Lee when she ran for the U.S. Senate by backing her boy Schiff, Nancy Pelosi does not support Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. Do not be confused.
And just so you guys can know who Roland Martin is referring to when he says Barbara Lee, she's a California U.S. Senator, and here she is right here. So Nancy Pelosi has a history of not supporting the women from her state. Here is Barbara Lee right here. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Talk about this with my panel joining me today on the show. We have Robert Portillo, host, People, Passion, Politics, News and Talk, 1380 WAOK in Atlanta. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center out of D.C. A. Scott Bolden, he is, of course, a political contributor. He's also, of course, worked with PACs with the National Bar Association, D.C. Democratic Party, chair, all that good stuff, is lawyer in D.C. Rebecca, I've been warning people for months, and it's happening before us. They want to take Biden out to take Harris out.
What we're seeing, I think I mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago, there's a difference between winning and power. These people here want power. They don't always care about winning because you don't have to get the W in order to coalesce power. One thing that I will also note for the audience, we know that the 2024 Joe Biden is different than the 2020 Joe Biden. We all know that. However, the 2024 Joe Biden is the same as the 2023 Joe Biden. If any of these people actually were concerned and cared, then they would have talked about this a year ago, last summer, before we even started going into the primary cycle for the Democratic nomination. There are things that could have been done last summer if they were interested at all in preserving Biden's legacy, if they were genuinely and authentically concerned with whether or not he could serve, they would have hashed this out, had this conversation, done all these things a year ago behind closed doors.
They were too busy going after Trump, trying to take Trump out. The demon rats were too busy doing a whole lot of other stuff. And see, their own housekeeping got left behind and got undone. Now the dishes are in the sink, the toilet needs to be scrubbed out, and now they're at the 12th hour going, oh no, company's coming over and the house is dirty. Y'all need to clean your house up. But Trump will do that for you.
To see it now and say, oh, well, it's because he had a bad debate. Every single one of those people who are talking publicly, every single one of those elected officials have had very bad debates, very bad public events, because I've seen them, right? So we know it's not about the pretense in which they're telling us that this thing is about, but it's clearly about who's actually going to be running the White House. And we know Joe Biden in the second term. We know that it's going to be Kamala Harris with outsized influence, but we also know, according to the Constitution, if Biden is not able to serve, which a lot of people are trying to say, oh, he's not going to be able to serve in the next 4 years, it will absolutely be Kamala. And finally, I will say, I also remember the summer of 2020, I was a part of a large group of Black women where we told Biden, hey, if your VP better be a Black woman, here is the short list. You need to pick someone from this list. And fortunately, he did. And so Black women are paying attention because we hear what's going on, we see what's going on, and we don't like it.
Talk about making demands. You better pick a Black woman. He sure picked one. Well, she's not really, Black, but I that's up for debate, Jamaican and Indian, whatever. She went to an HBCU and she said she listens to Tupac while smoking weed, but I guess, she thinks that's making her Black. I don't put a lot of faith in polls, even when they're going the way I want them to go. I don't put a lot of faith in polls. You can't really trust them because that doesn't equate to votes. We still have to get out and vote. You may think, oh, we're doing great in the polls. We're doing great in the polls. We still got to get out and vote. And that's what we got to do. And so the Democrats find themselves in this situation because they were too busy going after, this is my opinion, of course, they were too busy trying to go after Donald Trump, and their house was not in order. So now they got to run around like rats, trying to figure out what to do, like the demon rats that they are. So they picked a DEI hire who is unqualified and incapable of stepping into the role of president. And either one of them would not fare well up against Donald Trump. There's unity in the Republican camp, division in the demon rat camp. Facts. And according to what I see, they're going to have to go with Kamala Harris. How do you get rid of her? I mean, she is the next in line. She is next in line. And then you got to think about, okay, she's not going to do well. And then, I think the demon rats will do anything, right? I think they'll do anything. I think that they are thinking of, okay, neither one of these are doing good. They're probably trying to think of something else. And I don't want to say what that is. I just feel like they are just that desperate to keep Donald Trump out. And you guys know this whole thing with the attempted assassination does not pass the smell test. The government had a hand in what happened to JFK. RFK Jr. will tell you that. And I'll leave it right there. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm on my way to 40,000 subscribers. I am almost there. You guys be blessed. Love God, your families, the United States of America. And as I always say, march on, warriors.